The world is louder and more chaotic than ever. That's why clarity and truth have never been more important. Welcome to the Trust Factor Podcast. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are continuing today in the book, talking about the thing that affects us all on the most intimate level. What is it? Our health and well-being. And it's not just our physical health. When I say health, I'm connecting spiritual health, emotional health, and physical health. They're all one. Yeah. When you're affected in any of those departments, it is deeply impactful on our day-to-day lives. So let's pick up where we left off yesterday and see where the book takes us. It's going to continue along that vein. It's incumbent upon each and every one of us to make sure that we invest time and energy using our faculties to be able to improve the quality of human life. And that means especially in the department of science and medical technologies and advancements. And we've been doing a wonderful, wonderful job at this. Now, there's a bit of a conundrum over here. You have to ask yourself, because what are the real statistics? All anybody really needs to do is look at the world of medicine and biotechnology and technology in general, and you will see clear as day that statistically speaking, the amount that the Jewish nation has contributed to science and biosciences, medical research and technology is unmatched. Not only is it unmatched, my friends, but it is completely disparate from all other groups on planet Earth. Just look at the Nobel Prizes. Look at the awards that were given out by the Nobel Society. I think it started in 1901, something like that, 1902, in that area. Anyways, bottom line, they've been giving out these Nobel Prizes for about 120 years. And don't quote me on the statistics because it's been a while since I gave a lecture on it, but look it up. Just Google it, my friends, and put it into ChatGPT and ask about the statistical probabilities, and your mind will be blown. Jews account for over 20% of these Nobel Prizes in many, many different areas, including health and sciences. Now, if you look at the number of Jews that there are on planet Earth, 15 million Jews, and you figure out that 22% of the Nobel Prizes were given to those 15 million people relative to the other nations. Christians are over 2 billion. Muslims are almost 2 billion. You've got Hindus, hundreds of millions, and Sikhs and Buddhists and all kinds of people and atheists. So many people, 8 billion people on planet Earth. 8 billion. And we are a fraction of a percent. We're almost irrelevant in numbers. You would think we wouldn't even be noticed. But not only are we noticed, we're noticed in a way that attributes to us over 20% of the Nobel Prizes, a very esteemed organization giving out awards for very, very high recognition of people who've achieved greatness in this world. That statistical probability, again, don't quote me, look at the exact number, but it's an indication that in the world of contributions to society and the human value of life, the Jewish nation contributes 11,000% more than any other nation on the planet. That's not a small number. That's not a number that you and I can explain away with some form of human logic. It's impossible. I don't care who you are, but you simply cannot explain 11,000% more than any other nation in the world. It doesn't equate. It doesn't compute. Why? Because God embodied us with that natural ability, that natural talent to be able to make this world a better place. Because after all, that is our job. We are tasked with that. Our job is to be a light unto the nation. What is a light? A light is the thing at the end of the tunnel. The light is the thing that you see when you are in a position of despair and you are praying for salvation and you see a glimmer of light. A little bit of light poking through in a dark cave that you've been trapped in is an indication that you might just survive. A little bit of light is an indication that you've been enlightened, right? That now you've gotten access to information that you didn't have yesterday, that suddenly you are smarter, more aware, more wiser. Why? Because you've been enlightened. Light is the sign of advancement, of building, of injecting positivity and good things into this world. And it says very clearly that you are, the Jewish nation, is charged with being a light unto the nation. Well, God can't give us that job if he's not going to give us the ability to impact, that ability to be that light. And so we all have it. Do we all use it as often as we can? And the answer is clearly no. We often do, and you could see that by the Nobel Prizes, and you can see that when you walk into hospitals. If you think about, I often say to people, a lot of people have no idea that there are 15 million Jews in the world. And oftentimes what I say to them is, think about it. Just think, how many Muslims in the world? 2 billion almost? Christians, 2.5 billion? Think about it. Hundreds of millions of Sikhs and Muslims. Think. And now think about all the Jews that you know. Who do you think about? You think about your doctor. That's the first place you go to. Dr. Goldberg and Dr. Epstein and Dr. Schwartz, all these different doctors, and Dr. Gold, they're all Jews. Think about your accountant. Think about your lawyer. Think about all these different people that you interact with on a daily basis. Think about the leaders of communities. But you know that they're all Jews. And now think, how many Jews are there in the world? And oftentimes you come up with the same answer. Must be at least 1 billion, 1.5 billion. It's a joke. We're 15 million people. It doesn't even register. So clearly we're doing a lot right. Thankfully, God has embodied us with that ability, and many of us are using it. But many of us are not. And that irks me. One of the things that often irks me is that because we're so talented, we're charged with changing the world. But so many of us are just focused on changing our world, the 4 feet around us. That's what we're constantly focused on. And as a result of that, we're not looking outside of us. If more of us would look outside of our surroundings and worry about the rest of humanity, the world would be exponentially greater than it is today. We would have resolved a lot of the world's problems. So number one is we need to realize that we have an obligation to turn on our brains and utilize it to change life for all of humanity for the better. Divine providence, God's involvement in our life on an intimate level, plays a huge role in a person's health, more than any other area of a person's life. Remember yesterday I told you that your health and health difficulties and challenges are just another one of God's tribulations. But what the book is telling you is that it's more than that. It is the greatest tribulation that God can use in order to wake you up, in order to awaken your soul to do the right thing. And it makes sense if you think about it. Let's get into it. Pain and afflictions of the body and soul are the Creator's prime tools in arousing people to correct what they need to correct for multiple reasons. What are they? So it says, number one, a person might be apathetic about a variety of other trials and tribulations. Somebody may not lose sleep when they lose $100, but few people are able to ignore something that directly affects their own bodies, such as a sickness or a severe negative emotion. That's the same thing, by the way. A physical sickness and a mental sickness is the same thing. One might even argue that a mental, emotional sickness is much worse than a physical sickness. This is what happened to Eov. You know who Eov was? Job. There's a whole book on the individual called Job, Eov. What did we learn from him? God gave the Satan, the devil, the evil inclination, a license to test and to torment Eov, Job, but not to strike him down with illness. God said, do everything you want to this guy. Test him. I want to see what this guy is capable of, but do not hit his health. Why? Why would God keep that one as an exception? That's your first indication. That's exactly what the evil inclination did. He went after Eov, after Job. Even though Job lost his money and he buried his own children, he had many children and he buried every single one of them, he still did not crack under that pressure. And the Satan said to Hashem, a person will give anything for his own skin, but afflict his flesh and we'll see if he continues to bless you. In other words, the Satan says to Hashem, okay, great. I can test him with money. I can test him with material things. I can test him with everybody else's health. And that is generally an easier test to pass. But the Satan, who's been around a lot longer than you and I have and has tested many people, billions and billions, knows very well. And he said very clearly that when you attack everybody else or when you attack the material, it's a lot easier than when you attack the person's physicality. And so he challenged Hashem. He said, Hashem, let me test him. You want to see if this guy is really committed to you? Let me test him in a real way. The Satan claimed that no test of faith is as difficult as a sickness or an injury. So Eov, Job's steadfast faith, was shaken when? Once his entire body was afflicted with the illness of boils. And he began to complain, about the Creator's way of doing things. Whoa, wait a second. You lost child after child after child. You were wealthier than you could imagine, and all of your money went away. And what, nothing? You're not testing Hashem? Hashem, where are you? What's going on? Where's my money? Why did you take my kids? Nobody can imagine that. But when he gets afflicted, when now it comes to his body and he can't function normally, suddenly he breaks and he complains to Hashem, why is this the way that you run the world? That's how we learn. It's from the book of Job, Eov, that the body and the soul and those afflictions that are associated with them are easily the most difficult type of tribulation for a person. It doesn't need any explanation, especially if you're one of the unfortunate few who have dealt with serious illness, that the moment a person becomes ill, he loses all joy in life. Even the wealth and other material things that we get are no consolation. On the contrary, they heighten a person's feeling of misery because he can't enjoy the good things in his life. What good to me is all of this money, this massive bank account, the diamonds and the jewels and all kinds of different things, if all I'm dealing with is pains from ulcers and diabetes and cardiac conditions and going back and forth to doctors and not being able to enjoy a good meal. I can't even buy myself a good meal that I can sit down and enjoy with all of my wealth because my insides are upside down and causing me an unbelievable amount of grief. Doesn't matter how much money you have. You'd give it all away. What good is a healthy body if a person suffers from a tormented soul? Oh, are you kidding me? Since one cares so much about one's health, the Creator frequently arouses a person by way of his or her health. Health issues catch a person's attention more than any other issue. Mental health is the pinnacle of everything that we've just discussed. Anybody who knows this, and you have no idea, by the way, how common mental health issues are. They've been around forever. But in certain generations, when pressure is amped up, which happens when you're more productive in every generation, we continue to be more successful and more productive and earn more and produce more, which equates to more stress. So the more stress builds up, the more you have to keep up with the Joneses, the more difficult the cost of living is, the more difficult it becomes to produce the amount of income required to be a functioning part of society, the more pressure and weight are on your shoulders, and that cracks an individual. It breaks them, especially somebody who doesn't have emunah, somebody who's lacking trust in their Creator and the knowledge of how this world works and why he's testing us with the finances. They break under that pressure. Why, Hashem? I'm working so hard. I'm an honest person. I put in an honest day's work. I do more than everybody does around me. Why does everybody around me make more money than I do? Why does everybody around me have the ability to meet their financial requirements on a monthly basis, and I'm on a budget, and even when I'm on a budget, I still can't make ends meet? It's something that will break somebody very easily, and it's broken many people over the generations. And today, you don't have to be a genius. Just look at pharmaceuticals. Look at the anti-anxiety meds. Look at the antidepressants that are being dispensed. Almost everybody is on one form or another of an antidepressant or anti-anxiety med. And everybody's got at least one therapist, if not two. It's normal. Used to be, it was taboo. Today, there's something wrong with you if you don't have a therapist. Bottom line, mental illness is crippling, debilitating. If you're depressed, you do not get out of your house. I just lost a friend not long ago, a young woman my age, young, beautiful, talented, and constantly fighting a state of depression. And it ultimately took her life because of this terrible, terrible illness. It doesn't matter if you told me she was worth billions. It makes no difference. Money cannot buy you mental health. That is the biggest tool in God's quip, to be able to get you to wake up and to assess. And it can go just as easily as it came. That diagnosis can be reversed just as quickly as it was given. That mental illness can go just as quickly as it came. Don't believe me? I have personal evidence, my own personal evidence, that it can come and go. I battled with it. It was very short. It did not last long. Thank God. It was many years ago, many years ago. But I overcame it. And I overcame it specifically with Hashem's Torah, specifically through prayer. I was there. I don't know many people that don't go through some form of mental illness at one point or another in their lives. It's perfectly normal. So don't feel bad if you find yourself dealing with it. But no, I promise you, just as quickly as it came, it will leave. If you know who runs the world, if you know who gave it to you, because it's He who gave it to you who will take it away. Let's pick up. It's a very heavy subject, I know, but it's important because we all deal with this. And there's nothing more dear to us than our health, our physical and our emotional well-being. That's why we're learning about this, guys. Tune in tomorrow. We'll talk more about this and we'll learn how to be able to take back our health so that we can lead longer, healthier lives. Have an amazing day. Thank you for spending time with us on the Trust Factor podcast. If you've heard something today that moved you, save this episode and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming conversations that challenge, empower, and uplift. And if you're on social media, connect with us. Leave your thoughts. Drop a quote that resonated with you. Hashtag the Trust Factor podcast. Until next time, keep growing in your trust and keep living with purpose. I'm Jesse Revivo, and this has been the Trust Factor podcast. Thanks for listening.